This is Dave again from cheapwinefinder.com with another podcast to go along with a review we wrote on the cheapwinefinder.com website. And today we've got a bargain, a Trader Joe's bargain. When I started looking at this wine, it's called the Pure Bred Lodi Old Vine Zinfandel 2017. And I started looking online about it, and I saw that the 2016 vintage of it is selling for $16.99. Trader Joe's is selling the 2017 for $6.99. And I started looking around, and the website, the winery, and listed on the back of the label that is the producer of you go to their website and you push the button and it's their name on the website, but generic online pills, drugs come up. Whatever happened to the winery or the producers, whoever they were, they're not there anymore. And it could be they got their website hijacked, or they didn't pay their domain name, or maybe they went out of business, but Trader Joe's is selling their wine for 60% off. And that's not a bad thing because it's an old vine Lodi Zin, so you kind of know what you're going to get. And this isn't an outlier wine. They're not doing something crazy with this. This is this is a Lodi Zinfandel. It's kind of, it's not the old days when they were like Mad Dog wines. These are kind of balanced and juicy and ripe and delicious. And this one's no different. And it's a $17 Zinfandel that sells for $7. It's one of those no-brainer things. If you're looking for a red wine to drink, and you don't get old vine Lodi Zinfandel for $6.99 very often, and it's a very good effort. It's not my favorite. I have some producers out of Lodi that I really love what they do, but this is good. This is a good effort. It tastes great. I'm not complaining at all. And so this is a no-brainer wine. If you got $6.99 and you want a wine that should, it's probably sourced from really good vineyards, and they probably got a good winemaker. You don't know because there is no information unless you know something about online generic drugs. So what we're going to talk about today is something else. We're going to talk about why old vines. Why do you see old vines on labels, and why is it a big deal? And I'm going to kind of explain vineyards a little bit here. And, there is no legal definition of old vines. Kind of the rule of thumb is at least 40 years old. But here we're going to go into that a little bit about old vines. And say in Napa, in a vineyard that does Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon, and it sells a lot of wine out of that vineyard. It's well respected. They want their vines to be at their peak performance. They want mature vines making the best grapes. And there's a certain age when a vine starts not to produce as much as it can. So what those vineyards do is when they start to notice the vines start to go into decline, they'll pull them out and they'll plant new vines. So there's always going to be a majority or a vast majority of that vineyard is in its prime. And it takes a couple of years for these young vines to grow to a point where you can start making wines with them. But it's cost effective for them to constantly keep the vineyard as much as possible making prime grapes with prime vines. Now, the Zinfandel, it's been around forever. The oldest Zinfandel I know of is the 1869 vineyard, which is Chicago burned down in 1871. Billy the Kid was still running around New Mexico, and Custer hadn't run into Sitting Bull for another 6 years. That vineyard is still producing wines and still there, still going strong, or at least it's going anyway if it's not going strong. Zinfandel for a long time wasn't as in demand as those Napa Cabs and Merlots and whatever. Whoever owned the vineyard and was making wine made it, even though the yields would taper off, and They weren't as vibrant as they once were. They were still making enough grapes for their wines, and whoever they were contracting their grapes to and buying their wines. There wasn't any economic sense to be pulling everything out until it got kind of, and maybe today, now that Zinfandel is actually a thing, but old vines is a thing too. So that kills the incentive to pull out and have younger grapes. So for a long time, it just wasn't in demand. It was a grape that, it was selling, it was doing well and it was selling. But there was no reason to pull the grapes out or the vines out and regenerate the whole vineyard. So that goes to, so what's so good about old vines anyway? And there's an adage in winemaking that grapes need to struggle to make complex and interesting wines. They need to struggle. Vineyards are almost always placed on ground that has very poor nutrients. The vines don't get enough water just to survive. I remember seeing a video of a vineyard owner in a winery in Rioja, where the guy was standing at the edge of his vineyard and he said, beyond this point, even weeds don't grow. He was so proud to have really crappy land for his vineyard. It's kind of funny, but it's true, because these are good. Those were good grapes right there. They were struggling for something about the struggle, and it takes longer. The longer the grapes go through their process of developing the ripeness, the more complex and the more depth and the better the grapes they are. So, a lot of these vineyards for Zinfandel were not necessarily placed in the best, the best locations for wine. They're not bad, but especially after the white Zinfandel craze that was big in the 60s and early 70s, they were just planting grapes in good enough areas. And what were once kind of modest vineyards are now kind of, because of their old vine, because the vine struggled to get the nutrients out of the soil up the shaft of the vineyard to the branches and then to the grapes themselves, they naturally struggle. They don't need the poor land and the bad conditions to actually, to make a great grape. So they by themselves, by just their age, become really great vineyards. They have desirable grapes. So all these vineyards that were kind of afterthoughts, over time have become like national treasures. And then for a long time, the winemakers were making these, especially back when Australia was making these over-the-top wines, they were trying to match it. Zinfandel was America's Shiraz at some point. And now they're kind of pulling back and starting to let the grapes speak for themselves. And you're getting like these different kind of wines, these juicy, deep, complex wines, a lot of different things going on. And that is why you want old vine Zinfandel. And in Lodi, that's in the Central Coast. It's farther away. It's in the delta of one of the bays coming off of San Francisco that still gets some of that Pacific Coast climate things going on. You can still grow grapes there, but it's pretty far inland. And it was kind of an afterthought for a lot of the winemaking. And nowadays, it's not so much an afterthought. It's actually a great place. And they're doing well, and they got tons of what were once, not so well-respected vineyards are now really, really great vineyards making really, really great wines. The only problem is when you see old vine on the label, it doesn't mean it so much. You can get a wine made with 100-year-old vines, and you can get, wines with 40-year-old wines. Not that, it's not going to it'll make a difference, but you don't know what you're getting really unless they come out and tell you. And with this purebred Lodi Old Vine Zin, they don't go out and tell you anything because I think the company's gone and it looks like Trader Joe's bought up what was left and we're just drinking it for $6.99. And that's that. So old vines, Zinfandel, and Lodi kind of go together. There are reasons why they are good. There are reasons why they are desirable. And there's also reasons why you would pull the wines out with like the Cabernets of Napa and Sonoma and whatever, that you would keep the vineyards vibrant too. But since they didn't do it, you take advantage of what you have. And that's a good thing. And that's it for me, I think. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I don't think I'll post before Thanksgiving again. And after that, we're going to start doing party wines. We got Christmas and New Year's coming up, and we got to make the most of that. So keep it cheap and have a great holiday. And I'll be talking to you after the holiday. Bye-bye.